This is Dateline Wyoming, produced in the studios of WYO Radio. Dateline Wyoming is a weekly news feature highlighting community issues and events that shape our lives here in Southwest Wyoming. In-depth analysis and interviews with the people behind the headlines. Presented Sunday mornings at 7 a.m. Views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WYO Radio ownership, management, or those of our sponsors. Time will be made available for responsible dissenting opinion. And now, Dateline Wyoming. This is your host for Dateline Wyoming, Tom Ellis. This morning our guest is Jenissa Meredith, Executive Director of the Sweetwater County Joint Travel and Tourism Board. Our conversation with Jenissa follows this message.
Hey, at our startup, my team and I move at the speed of tech 24/7. Bottom line, I just want the news that matters. So where do I turn? My local radio stations. I want to hear from people who live and work in my town, people I know and trust. For the best entertainment, sports, news, weather, and traffic, anytime, anywhere, I stay local. Support your local stations. Text RADIO to 52886. Furnished by the NAB and this station. Message and data rates may apply. Apply stop, opt out.
Jenissa Meredith is the Executive Director of the Sweetwater Joint Travel and Tourism Board. Jenissa, welcome to Dateline Wyoming.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Travel and tourism, that is a huge part of our economy here in Southwest Wyoming.
It definitely is. Yes, absolutely.
Give us a little history, if you will, of the Travel and Tourism Board and how it came into being and so forth.
The Sweetwater County Travel and Tourism Board has been in existence since 1991. So it administers the lodging tax. So in 1991, voters voted to impose a 2% countywide lodging tax. And so that lodging tax had been collected at that rate up until 2014. Then in 2014, voters approved for that to be increased to a 3% lodging tax rate. And the lodging tax has to be used for marketing to generate hotel occupancy. That's the intent of the lodging tax. It can't be used to build attractions or anything bricks and mortar wise. It has to be used on marketing. And so there are various efforts that the Lodging Tax Board has been involved with since 1991.
It's generally paid by people who are traveling through the area, isn't it?
It is. It's the tax that local residents don't pay. Unless you stay in a hotel or a campground in Sweetwater County, you don't pay the lodging tax.
Travel and tourism is responsible for administering that lodging tax.
Exactly.
How does that process work?
There is a board of 11 board members. 6 of them are appointed from the city of Rock Springs. 2 are appointed from the city of Green River. 1 from Wamsutter, 1 from Superior, and 1 is appointed by the county commissioners. That board of 11 individuals is responsible for administering that tax. I have been the executive director in this position since 2007, so I do the work of the board. We also have a marketing assistant and an administrative assistant as well.
There's you and 2 people on staff, is that correct?
Exactly. The Lodging Tax Board has only been staffed since 2005. It was a volunteer board from 1991 until 2005. So they hired their first director then. That person stayed in the position for 2 years, and then I was hired in 2007. And then from 2007 until 2015, it was myself and 1 part-time assistant doing the work of the board. Once the lodging tax increased from the 2% to 3%, we had a larger budget, and we were able to hire a marketing assistant position. He has been in the position for about a year and a half, doing any of the extra work that we need done. We've been able to start some new projects, having that additional full-time position, which has been nice for this past year.
Go into a little more detail, perhaps, on what the specifications are for the money as it's spent.
The majority of our budget is spent on a traditional marketing plan. Magazine advertisements, billboards, digital advertising, our website, our travel guide, different brochures, just a really traditional, what you think of advertising and marketing. That's the bulk of our budget. We also do public relations efforts. We invite individuals who write for travel publications to come to Sweetwater County, and we showcase all that there is that's great about Sweetwater County that a traveling family might be able to utilize while they're in the area. We host travel writers every summer, and that generates a good amount of editorial coverage for all of the outdoor adventure activities in our area. Our marketing plan includes an email campaign. So anybody who requests our travel guide becomes part of our database. And so monthly we send out an email to them featuring whatever is going on that month. So there's a calendar of events included. During the summer, there's a lot of activities and events that are featured within that email. In the wintertime, there's a lot less going on in Sweetwater County, so it's more about the ice fishing or different events that are going on during the winter. We are responsible for promoting any activity that happens in Sweetwater County that would generate visitation and hotel occupancy. We promote.
Walk us through the process if somebody wants to apply for a grant from Travel and Tourism. How does that work?
And there's two different types of grants that the Lodging Tax Board provides. One is a traditional advertising grant. That is for an event that needs to advertise to generate either participation or spectatorship. Anything, Flaming Gorge Days, Wyoming's Big Show, the River Festival. Without traditional advertising, those types of events would not generate spectatorship or participation. We also offer a second kind of grant funding, and it's called sponsorship. That's for any event that's going to generate hotel occupancy that doesn't require traditional advertising. Any culminating sporting event where teams are coming in, spectators are coming in, and you don't have to hear an ad on the radio to know about the event, those qualify for sponsorship dollars, and those dollars are used for event space, officials, awards. It's just however we can make that a better event for them so that they're more likely to be able to host it in the future.
How many organizations in the county would qualify for a grant?
In 2016, the board administered 30 event grants, and that is anything from the Crystal Classic, Wind and Mud Hockey Tournaments, the River Festival, Sweetwater County High School Rodeo, Harry Horse Show, Toman Invitation Wrestling Tournaments, Race on the Rock Triathlon, Flaming Gorge Days, Blues and Brews, Art on the Green, Eden Valley All-Around Horse Performance Series, Flaming Gorge Classic Basketball Tournament. Literally any event that's going to generate hotel occupancy would qualify for those lodging tax dollars.
What kind of budget do you have as far as what you're spending on an annual basis?
Currently, at the 3% lodging tax rate, it's collecting about $940,000. We budgeted meagerly this past year. We didn't expect for the lodging tax to increase with the current economic climate and the current downturn in the energy sector. Over 60% of the hotel occupancy in Sweetwater County is that workforce business traveler. So that really does affect that lodging tax collection. We have budgeted very meagerly for the past few years, not anticipating any kind of growth. And we've been almost exactly on target for the past 2 years. Right now, the lodging tax has come in about 10% less than what we have budgeted. So we have not been affected nearly as drastically as the sales tax has because it's only measuring that one sector of the lodging.
I have an organization and I think I would like to participate in the program. What do I do? How does that process work?
The application process for the lodging tax funds for events is very simple. On our website at tourwyoming.com, T-O-U-R, Wyoming spelled out.com, at the bottom of the home page, you'll see the link for grant information. There's a 3-page attachment there of the grant guidelines. Anyone who's interested should read through that to begin with. And then there is a link to both the advertising application, which is a 1-page application, and the sponsorship application. They're both on our website. There are a few additional things that we need with those applications: what your marketing plan is, description of the event, why you think it qualifies for lodging tax dollars, and then we need 12 copies of each of the applications, one for each board member and then myself. We actually have someone in our office who is our admin assistant, but she also is our grant specialist. She can walk anyone through what they need to provide to be able to apply for those grants. The board holds grant hearings 4 times a year, so it's a quarterly process. In September and December and March and June, the board considers events for grant funding. The applications are due 1 month prior to each of those quarterly grant hearings. All of this information is on the website at tourwyoming.com.
It would include any marketing media available to those people or to a company or a group or an organization, an event within Sweetwater County.
Yes, the advertising dollars would cover 30% of in-county advertising, traditional mediums such as radio, newspaper, magazines, that sort of thing. And it would cover 100% of out-of-county advertising because the point is to generate that visitation from outside of the area.
The whole idea is to increase out-of-county traffic.
Exactly. Heads in beds. That's what we call it.
Do you have any information as to the impact of those dollars over the past years?
Since 2008, we have measured the effectiveness of our advertising campaign. We run the majority of our advertising in the spring to encourage that summer traffic because The majority of the activities and events that visitors come to Sweetwater County for are available during those summer months. So the bulk of our advertising runs in the spring. The summer occurs. In the fall and early winter, we measure that advertising campaign. So we contract with a company called SMARI. It stands for Strategic Market Analysis and Research Incorporated. It's a company that the State Office of Tourism has helped us to contract with. They take our database of leads. So in 2016, 66,000 people requested our travel guide. So they saw an ad for Sweetwater County and they reached out and requested us to send them a travel guide. So either a physical travel guide or a digital electronic travel guide that they could download. Out of that database of 66,000 people, this company that we've contracted with, they take a random sample. So they took 687 leads out of that database and they interviewed those people. They've requested a travel guide. So they've reached out to them via telephone and internet and asked them to complete a survey. And of the people who completed the survey, we found out that 22% of those people actually visited Sweetwater County after requesting and receiving our travel guide. Based on that research, we know that our advertising converted 6,444 trips to Sweetwater County. Part of the survey that those folks can provide information through, they ask them, how long do you stay in the area? Who do you bring with you? What types of attractions do you see while you're in the area? What kind of money do you spend on what? So we know that the average party size of the folks that are visiting Sweetwater County is about 3.3, and they're staying in our area about 3.5 days.
Dateline Wyoming with our guest, Jenissa Meredith of the Sweetwater County Joint Travel and Tourism Board, continues following this message.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard, so you don't need to sell all your belongings and live in a commune.
These dungarees belong to all of us now, Tom.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman.
We need a new stuntman!
You just need FeedThePig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at FeedThePig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Dateline Wyoming now continues with today's guest, Jenissa Meredith, Executive Director of the Sweetwater Joint Travel and Tourism Board.
We're not always the final destination for the leisure traveler that's coming through Wyoming, but we definitely want to be a stop along the way, a place for them to stop for a few days on that Wyoming road trip before they head north to our national parks.
I-80 is a huge resource. There's a lot of people traveling on I-80. And then, as you mentioned, being right on 191 with a lot of people headed for Yellowstone Parks, that's a very big, important part of it, isn't it?
In our new creative ad campaign, we really focus on that route, indicating that the intersection of I-80 and 191 is the ideal way to travel from Salt Lake City or Denver or anywhere in that region to the national parks of Wyoming. So we call it a route-focused campaign. We've really narrowed down on, like I said, making ourselves part of that overall Wyoming road trip.
One thing I was going to ask when we were talking about your board of directors, who appoints the board of directors?
The cities and the county. So 1991, it was a joint powers agreement between the city of Rock Springs, Green River, Wamsutter, Superior, and the county. So that's who appoints the board members to the board.
Are there some other things that we should know about?
Our marketing campaign is the bulk of our efforts, and we are really proud of the return on investment that it has generated over the years. Like I was saying, we measure that advertising every year to find out, did people come to the area? Did it generate visitation? And we have found out through that in 2016, for every $1 that we spent on advertising, there was a return on investment of $68 to the local economy. So those are dollars that would not have been realized without the advertising campaign. It's important for us to make sure that we're advertising the right markets and that we're really generating that visitation that the lodging tax was intended to be used for. So that's kind of the bulk of our efforts. Ever since the lodging tax increased to 3% in 2014, we have been able to branch out and do some new projects that we hadn't done in the past. Our beautification committees that we created in 2015. Most folks would not associate lodging tax efforts with beautification efforts. And lodging tax dollars cannot be spent on landscaping or signage or cleanup. The dollars cannot be spent on that. So what we do is we work with local partners. We work with the cities. We work with the chambers. We work with the college. We work with the business council, private industry, to figure out what funding sources are available to provide beautification. So recently we have applied for funds through the Wyoming Office of Tourism. They provide signage funding. So we have secured funds that the city of Rock Springs is going to match to build another gateway sign at the westbound Dewar Drive exit off of Interstate 80. So if you're familiar with the eastbound exit off of Interstate 80 onto Dewar Drive, there's a Rock Springs Gateway sign, a big concrete sign that says Rock Springs. That was something that we did about 6 years ago that Sweetwater County Travel and Tourism and the City of Rock Springs partnered with the Wyoming Office of Tourism to secure funding to get that constructed. The goal is to have a similar but smaller scale sign on the other side of that exit. So the Wyoming Office of Tourism has provided funding for that, and the City of Rock Springs has matched that funding. So that was a grant that needed that match. So that will be built and constructed this spring. With Flaming Gorge being one of our largest attractions in the area, we partnered with the Wyoming Office of Tourism and the Utah side of Flaming Gorge to construct 2 gateway signs and 2 map kiosks on Highway 191 and Highway 530. So if you're traveling south on 191, about 15 miles down, you'll see a large Flaming Gorge sign with log framing, and also a map kiosk. So these are 2 projects that we were able to construct in 2014 and 16 to be able to really provide that visitor with a sense of arrival at Flaming Gorge, and then let them have the opportunity to orient themselves to the area by looking at that map and taking a map with them to encourage them to spend more time in Flaming Gorge country. We've also applied for funding through Rocky Mountain Power to provide additional landscaping to the large Rock Springs Gateway sign that already exists. That needs additional landscaping. Rocky Mountain Power has actually partnered with us to provide funding to do some landscaping around that sign. And then additionally, we have applications into YDOT to do landscaping around the other side of that Dewar Drive exit. Beautification, like I said, is not something that usually you affiliate with lodging tax boards. We just saw it as an opportunity. When someone is driving along Interstate 80 and they decide to exit in Rock Springs, we want that first impression to be beautiful and welcoming. And I feel like that will encourage them to stay longer in our area and stay in the hotels and eat at the restaurants and shop at our retail outlets. In my mind, that was something that was directly correlated with the advancement of tourism in our area.
You're actually stepping outside the lodging tax funding for additional funding through grants and so forth to move into that area.
We cannot use lodging tax dollars for these efforts, so we just bring together the entities that can provide the funding for these. It's not been done, and it's been needed for a long time. We're just trying to make sure that the funds that are available are being applied for. The YDOT funds have been available for years and have not been approached.
So you're really facilitating the availability is what you're doing here.
Every county and city in the state has their own challenges and opportunities, and I just felt like that was something that really would give that traveler a better impression of our area and encourage them to stay longer, which every business in the area will benefit from.
Are there other areas that you're looking at, like beautification?
We are. So we have a list of all areas around the cities. We're working in Green River as well. So we did a planting project at the entrance. If you're traveling westbound on I-80, that first exit into the city of Green River, we did a planting project there. So we received grant funding to be able to plant over 100 bushes and plants there. Some trees were planted in that area as well. So we work with both Rock Springs and Green River, looking at all parts of both cities, just trying to figure out what we can actually make an impact on. These grant dollars that we're able to secure are not large amounts of money. They're $5,000 or $7,000 or $3,000. We want to use them in a way that you can see there has been an impact to try and draw more attention to the projects and get more involvement.
What is your process for identifying some of those areas?
The committee comes together. So we bring together both cities of Rock Springs, the chambers, the business council, all of our partners in the area, and have the conversation. We developed a Pride of Place program in 2015. So every quarter we are recognizing a business in the area who really exudes pride of place. So that just means they've either done some renovations to improve the appearance of their business. Sometimes it's just keeping it clean and orderly, a new paint job, some landscaping improvements. So we have given out a Pride of Place award each quarter since October of 2015. So we're really just trying to encourage businesses to maintain their property and make it appealing to not only residents, but visitors.
The visuals of a community are really important as to how many people actually decide that's someplace I'd like to stop.
Absolutely. And a lot of times as residents, I was raised here. So you see things so many times that they don't stand out to you as being appealing or not appealing. It's just what we see every day. If you try to imagine what a new person to the area, what a visitor to the area, what their first impression would be at any of the off-ramps off of the interstate around town. We just want to recognize the folks who are doing a great job at providing a visually appealing place of business, and then hopefully encourage others to jump on board as well.
Back in 1985, I was one of those new visitors to the area. I had been living in South Dakota in the Black Hills, so one morning I left the Black Hills and drove into Southwest Wyoming. I don't know that I had a negative impression, but it was just so different. It takes you a little while to understand there's a really true beauty in what we have.
Oh, absolutely. The high desert, I think, is gorgeous. And I think it's unique in the fact that when people think of Wyoming, they don't think of desert. They don't think of rock formations and sand dunes. They don't think of that. So I feel like there's that unique piece of our corner of the state that you don't get anywhere else. I absolutely think there's extreme appeal to Sweetwater County. There are just some little parts around the entry points that I think we could make some improvements on.
To make sure that people just take notice.
We want them to get off the interstate and not think, oh, well, I don't see much right away. I think if we make those entry points more welcoming and beautiful, they will take the time to find out all of the great things about our
and
area.
That's kind of interesting because I remember years ago, at one point in time, we lived in Green River, and we had some relatives going through the area. And we were sitting there talking about things, and one of them said, I see so many boats. I see boats everywhere. Where are these people using the boats? And there's really no indication that you've got such a wonderful waterway down on the Flaming Gorge as you're just driving down the highway.
Absolutely. That's why if you've seen any of the billboards on Interstate 80, Sweetwater County Travel and Tourism has purchased that ad space because, the Flaming Gorge is the largest reservoir in the state of Wyoming, and you wouldn't know that it was there if you just drove on I-80. So we want to pull them off the interstate, welcome them at the entry points so that they'll be able to experience all of the high desert adventure that we offer.
Of the money you spend on marketing, what percentage is through grants, through local businesses, events, and organizations, and how much are you spending directly?
We spend 62% of our budget on the traditional advertising campaign that I've spoke of, 14% on event grants, 2% on what we call board projects. So anything that's in line with the board mission of generating visitation to the area that doesn't fall within a grant, event grant format, we consider for funding. So that would be the Flaming Gorge magazine. We advertise within the Flaming Gorge magazine. That's actually put out by the Flaming Gorge Chamber of Commerce on the Utah side, but we want to make sure that the Wyoming side is properly represented anytime Flaming Gorge is promoted in any way. So a lot of Flaming Gorge efforts fall under that category. Brochures, we'll print brochures for the museums, any entity that is working towards generating that visitation, encouraging folks to spend some time in our area. We consider that for funding. We also provide block grants to both the Rock Springs Chamber of Commerce and the Green River Chamber of Commerce. So a lot of times the Lodging Tax Board is actually housed within a visitor center. So then they pay for the operational costs of the visitor center. Ours is unique. Our office is downtown, and so both the Rock Springs and Green River Chambers operate as visitor centers, and the new Rock Springs complex is phenomenal, and we worked closely with them on that project. So our grant funding helps them pay for staffing, summer staffing in particular, and then all of the brochure distribution. So they distribute the Sweetwater County Travel Guide for us. They distribute the state tourism guide for us, state maps. So it's a contract for those types of services.
If there was something about travel and tourism that you would like our listeners to know about that they may not be aware of, what would that be?
That there are a lot of visitors coming to Sweetwater County and staying in the hotels and campgrounds. Being raised in this area, I had no idea of what a draw Wyoming is to the rest of the world. It's truly a place to get away and unplug, spend time with your family, enjoy the great outdoors. I had no idea the magnitude of the visitation that we experience in Wyoming. It's the second leading industry in the state, and it's a huge industry.
Rock Springs and Green River are really gateway locations for a lot of things, both south and north of us.
Absolutely. Rock Springs and Green River, we're a great hub. There are so many fascinating things around us. The Flaming Gorge country, you go from high desert to Ashley National Forest within an hour's drive. You can be on the water. From Rock Springs or Green River, you can be on the water within 30 minutes. North of us, I really think that South Pass and Atlantic City, those are also fascinating. Riverton, Lander, you're this is a great hub in Sweetwater County to really experience all sorts of different activities in our area.
We've talked to Bob Jensen from the Rock Springs Museum, and the historical implications of who we are and where we are and for in Rock Springs and Green River are really impressive as well.
Absolutely. The historical element is huge. We are going to be celebrating the John Wesley Powell expedition. The anniversary of that is coming up in 2019. That will be huge. We have a ton of history in Rock Springs with the railroad. The railroad anniversary will be coming up as well. So we are perfect for the historian. We're perfect for the outdoor adventure seeker. We're perfect for the family on their way to Yellowstone. It's really the perfect spot for anyone who wants to experience Wyoming.
Jenissa, our time is just about up. Any final thoughts?
The local option lodging tax is on the ballot every 4 years. It will be on the ballot again in 2018. And I think the most important thing about it is that residents really benefit from it. Local businesses really benefit from the visitors coming through and stopping and spending time and spending money in Sweetwater County. And so when it comes up on the ballot again in 2018, it's important for residents to remember that it's the tax that we don't pay that benefits us all.
Jenissa, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Our guest on Dateline Wyoming this morning has been Jenissa Meredith, Executive Director of the Sweetwater County Joint Travel and Tourism Board. We'll be back after this message with my take on today's program and a look at next week.
Hey, at our startup, my team and I move at the speed of tech 24/7. Bottom line, I just want the news that matters. So where do I turn? My local radio stations. I want to hear from people who live and work in my town, people I know and trust. For the best entertainment, sports, news, weather, and traffic, anytime, anywhere, I stay local. Support your local stations. Text RADIO to 52886. Furnished by the NAB and this station. Message and data rates may apply. Apply stop, opt out.
This is your host for Dateline Wyoming with my take on today's show. Along with mineral extraction and agriculture, tourism occupies a major place in the economy of Sweetwater County. The county's proximity to Fleming Gorge and its location at the junction of Highway 191 North and Interstate 80 to Yellowstone Park combine to make visitors to and through the area a key factor in our economy. Established following the passing of the lodging tax and subsequent increases to that tax, the Sweetwater County Joint Travel and Tourism Board has become an important marketing resource for local events. Those looking for a clean, low-impact industry need to look no further than tourists stopping at Fleming Gorge, coming to attend local events, or on their way to the national parks to our north. In many ways, Interstate 80 has become a major part of our economy, and the Travel and Tourism Board is working to maximize its importance to Southwest Wyoming. That's my take on today's program. This is your host, Tom Ellis, with an invitation to join us next Sunday at this time for Dateline Wyoming. You have been listening to Dateline Wyoming with your host, Tom Ellis. Dateline Wyoming is a public affairs presentation of WYO Radio News presented every Sunday at this time, highlighting community issues and events that shape our lives here in Southwest Wyoming. Views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WYO Radio ownership, management, or that of our sponsors. Time will be made available for responsible dissenting opinion. Audio copies of this program will be available each Monday following the program's airtime on Sunday at youtube.com/WYO Radio.